Chris Lukasevich. Although it is about 2 or 3 hours after the Board of Commissioners meeting, I thought I'd do a meeting after the meeting, something that I used to regularly do immediately after Board of Commissioners meeting in order to address some of the issues or topics that came up, or really just to provide some more in-depth commentary on those particular issues of importance or relevance from the day. And I even thought it was more important to do it today and maybe over the next couple weeks leading up to 28 September I did Carbon Matters live streaming last Saturday night as I was trying to catch up on all the relevant and material issues that were necessary to be discussed with all of you, the citizens of Carbon County, so that the 28 September Carbon Matters live streaming could be focused on simply the guest who I will be hosting, which is the controller candidate, Sam Luck. So I do hope you're able to join me on the 28th. But this is a way to keep up to date on what's going on and provide some input beyond what was discussed in the Board of Commissioners meeting. There was a quorum of 2 commissioners there today. Wayne was unavailable today, so myself and Rocky were responsible for the management of the meeting. And first, I want to highlight that on the 17th of September, the Public Defender's Office, Paul Levy, will be hosting a raft for recovery with Pocono Whitewater. So I'd go Google Pocono Whitewater up on 903, Rafting for Recovery, a great event that's going to highlight recovery, those individuals currently working through the process of recovery, those who have successfully recovered from addictions, challenges in life. So a great event and activity, Rafting for Recovery. Go to Pocono Whitewater, register for that event on 17th September. And we did sign a proclamation for Recovery Month. But I wanted to first and foremost go into the first notable motion. It was an advertisement request for CDBG, Community Development Block Grant COVID. So CDBG CV funds put out for the third time a bid for renovations of a building on First Street in Lehighton, managed by Peaceful Knights, for the development and establishment of a single homeless women's shelter. That had gone out to bid twice before. On those 2 bids that were sent out opportunities, we only received 1 bid, and that was for the plumbing, which is one of 3 elements of the project: the general construction, the electrical, and the plumbing. So in the absence of receiving bids for the general and for the plumbing, for the general and the electric, we had to go back out a second time. We were then expected, based upon state contracting law and county policy, going to more or less do what I would refer to as a sole source. After two attempts for bids, if there are no bids received, well, we did have the authority under state contracting law to go out, get an estimate from a vendor, and award them the work if they met the criteria established in the scope of work and administrative requirements. Unfortunately, or the reality is, this was federal money, so we had to fall under federal guidelines. Federal guidelines didn't necessarily allow us to simply, after 2 attempted bids opportunities, to then go sole source. So we were in a situation where we had a project that had to be done by 29 September, yet we had to put it out the bid for a third time. And understand the bidding process is 24 hours, and it's done. You advertise it, you close it, you award it. You have to go ahead, put it out for public notice twice, 3 days apart, and then it includes a time period. You have to give at least you have to give 10 days as a minimum for those bids to come back in. So we had it lined up where bids would actually come in on the morning of the 18th, and we would award it shortly thereafter, within really an hour. In the meantime, went back and was checking the federal contracting regulations or the laws that govern that, and did see that in situations where there was an exigency, so really it was a time sensitive matter, and only one vendor could meet the requirement, could actually go out and award the bid to that particular company without the competitive bidding process. Well, as we were floating this with DCED, who's the grant manager of the CDBG-CP funding, just so happens this morning we got a notification that we have been provided the opportunity for an additional extension. There's an original extension that was provided to everyone from May through the end of September. So this money could be expended, not returned to the federal government. We got a call this morning where we had an opportunity to get an additional extension, so we could get this work done for the single homeless women's shelter. So we quickly adjusted not our process, because it is out for bid right now, and on the 18th at 10 a.m. The bidding will close, and we'll go into a special Board of Commissioners meeting to open those awards, recess for a short period of time so they can be reviewed, and actually go ahead and make on that same day an award on the 18th. But in lieu of having only 11 days till the 29th of September to complete the project, which was, and we want to say an impossible, but probably not practical for any reasonable company to complete the work in 11 days that's required, we're going to be able to more or less give 60 days upon notification to proceed, which I suspect will award it and send out the notice to proceed almost the same day, if not within a day or so. So that'll give the contractors, be it the general, the plumbing, and electric, hopefully we'll get the bids for it, give them 60 days. So potentially by Thanksgiving, we could have the work done. Now, why am I so optimistic that this is going to work this third time? The third time's a charm. Well, the fact is, we've actually already had 3 packets that were picked up to bid. And I know that a 4th company who the county has a very close and working relationship with is also putting in a bid. So I'm confident that we're going to get this across the finish line. And interesting enough, if you look behind me, I'm wrong finger here, I'm trying to do this. If you look on my priorities, let's see where it finds single homeless women's shelter. It's on there somewhere. I'm trying to see which one it is. All right, right up there, right? You see one of my 2023 priorities, number 9, single homeless women's shelter. So I think we're going to bring this to reality after what? 4.5 years in waiting. So that was one big item that came up. The second one was a motion for a change in work order for Boyle Construction, who's working the courthouse renovation project. It was an addition in the amount of almost $21,000 for their consulting services and their oversight and project management of the courthouse renovation project. And the point I brought up is when we awarded bids for the courthouse renovation project, now it would have been about 3 weeks ago, if I recall, 1 about the 17th of August, we awarded bids. Now, I voted no on all of these bids because, again, I thought, one, we were exceeding the money we had available, and secondly, because of the way the project was being done uh, by phases, extending the project from 11 to 18 months and work on an unnecessary renovation of space for an office to move into uh, was an unfair burden on the taxpayer. And so today, when I saw this additional $21,000, I brought to the attention in the meeting that right now, uh, the project that has been awarded, the amount that has been awarded for this project, not including this $20,000, is $5,009,400, right? Plus, there's an additional $153,995 that has to go into space that the clerk of courts is being directed to move to. Not that they requested, they're being directed to move to so that the DA can have more space. And I would argue, while they may need more space, there were other options available. And this has been beaten to death, this additional space that was available to meet their needs. But nonetheless, so now what you have is a total cost of a project of $5.16 million. Yet, if you look at the treasurer's report, or what's called the cross fund report, you see I have a circle amount there. That is the amount of money that is left in the capital projects fund, and that is 4.64 million. So obviously, do the math, subtract 4.64 million from 5.6 million, and we end up having a deficit of $517,000, $517,309 before the project even starts. There's a $500,000 budget deficit, project deficit, before the project even starts. And all too often, we know what happens with estimated project costs. Now, there is some built-in allowances that help mitigate the possibility of even going deeper into debt. But right now, the county doesn't have that additional $500,000 to pay for the work that my colleagues have approved. So I want to bring that to your attention. So there was a single homeless women's shelter, back on track for the time being. Second, the courthouse renovations were already, before we even start the actual renovation, we're $500,000 in the hole. All right. I want to take a couple comments that I made during the meeting. I think it's important, mostly for the visitors to Carbon County, and county residents are going to benefit because of additional funding coming in to the county in regards to parking fees. During the 4 full weekends in October, the county, utilizing Mock Chunk Lake Park and our public transportation system, Carbon Transit, which is managed by Lehigh Northampton Transit Authority, the county, quote unquote, will be providing reserved parking at Mock Chunk Lake Park for 100 vehicles each weekend through the full foliage events and activities taking place here in Carbon County. So starting tomorrow, you visitors to Carbon County will be able to go to the Carbon County parking website, and we'll be posting the links and promoting it, and reserve a parking spot at Mock Chunk Lake Park for $25. That will not only reserve you a parking spot, $25 for the day, but that will include 2 shuttle passes, which retail at $6 each round trip. Now, obviously, many people are going to arrive at Mock Chunk Lake Park with a reservation and have more than 2 people Well, you'll also be able to buy additional fares or tickets for the shuttle service, which is public transportation, for $6 round trip, $3 one way. So look forward to passing to your friends and families who might be visiting and will require parking and not be parking at your own residence that very convenient and the only reserved parking for full foliage for the festivities taking place in our county seat will be available through the county website starting tomorrow, 8 September. And I know we're going to have great assistance from the Pocono Mountain Visitors Bureau, Jim Thorpe Tourism Agency, Carbon Chamber and Economic Development Corporation to help get the word out about this reserved parking opportunity. The first time ever offered during full foliage for visitors to Carbon County. And we're going to actually have 3 carbon transit buses, shuttles running, and they'll be running every 10 minutes from Mock Chunk Lake Park, Lentz Trail, Center Avenue, down the movie house, and drop off right by the Anacostia Museum. So right up from the Marion Hose Company, Marion Hose Bar, the Opera House, about 25 meters up from the the uh, the Opera House there, and then they'll head back up Broadway. Now, what's also great about this public transportation we're providing is we have a multitude of campers out at Mock Chunk Lake Park in October. The campgrounds are still open well past the termination of the swim season, which finished up at one this past Monday. So they'll also be able to use at cost the public transportation to go from Mock Chunk Lake Park to downtown Jim Thorpe. So not only are we keeping 100 cars that would otherwise be seeking parking in downtown Jim Thorpe or on that hill or over on the east side or clogging our streets, but this is going to also have a positive impact that campers out at Mock Chunk Lake Park aren't going to jump in their car and also try to add to this issue. They will have public transportation available. So I think we're going to have a great service provided to the public for full foliage. And the last point I want to make as I wrap up this edition of the meeting after the meeting, and that is my virtual meeting and discussion after the commissioners meeting. I want to talk about the election board. In 2021, when I made the decision to provide or support then clerk of court Tyra Boney and candidate for reelection Tyra Boney in 2021 for her reelection campaign for the primary, I sent the petition to the president judge seeking recusal of my position, recusing myself of position on the election board so that I could uphold the highest moral, ethical standards and ensuring no conflict of interest, because I was going to provide my time, funding, and effort to support Tyra in her candidacy. And so I did petition the court. Unfortunately, the courts denied my request for recusal based upon legitimate reasons, and I expected that was going to be the case, knowing the particular law in this matter. But then throughout the primary and the general election season, I would abstain from votes that I thought conflicted with my support for her as a candidate. Well, not dissimilar, when I find a very strong candidate who I think can make a difference for Carbon County, I put my time, money, and effort behind them. And I've made the decision to put some of my time, my money, and my effort behind a candidate who is running for controller. So to support that particular candidate, I thought it only appropriate once again to petition the courts to allow me to recuse myself and have a replacement placed on the Board of Elections to fulfill those duties and responsibilities. Now, I highly suspect that once again, that request will come back appropriately denied. Um, the little tweak in this is that the three judges have recently recused themselves from a pro se case I have in regards to legal guardianship. Maggie and I are Molly's legal guardian for the person and the estate or estate. So we need to modify our initial guardianship. And so I did a pro se case. Uh, I suspect because of the challenge that I have with the courts and their failure to adhere to Act 57 of 2020, Judge Nanovic decided he was going to recuse himself of further interactions of any cases I have made pending. And likewise, Judge Matike and Judge Serfas also saw a conflict of interest. And I would say, really, from the get go, anything from the minute I was elected to the Board of Commissioners, there would be a legitimate reason to call conflict of interest when dealing with any court case I might have before the Court of Common Pleas here in Carbon County. So that's going to be a little tweak. So it's going to have to more than likely go to a judge other than those three for consideration. But nonetheless, my thought is that judge will also say, no, it's not appropriate for you to be placed on the board. You have to retain a position. So what I'm going to do on Tuesday during the Board of Elections Commission, I'm going to go ahead, step down as the chair, and take a position as member, and then nominate another Board of Election member to assume my position as chair. And then, just like 2 years ago, I'll go ahead and simply abstain from those or any motions that come forth that I think might be a particular conflict of interest for me. Again, my moral, ethical standards are up here. I tried to get my fellow commissioner, Wayne Nostein, to do similarly in 2021 as he was backing with time, money, and effort a candidate. But again, we obviously have different sets of values and beliefs when it comes to ethical standards. And mine are clearly up here. Others apparently, well, not apparently, but obviously are not quite at that same level. So I just wanted to kind of reiterate that. If you have any questions, email me. Give me a call at 570-503-6786. Again, I just want to bring up those couple issues. And in hindsight, or looking back now, or review of the meeting, Linda Chrisman and some representatives from Safe Carbon County who have asked us to consider a resolution in regards to biosolids, the use of biosolids on farmland in Carbon County. We're at the meeting again. We had originally expected, or we had expected potentially as early as next week, we could have a resolution for consideration. However, it would have been the day before yesterday, if not yesterday, I submitted my final proposed edits to what was originally given to us and some significant changes. I thought I didn't see in the original resolution any recognition of the need to protect the rights of farmers. And I wanted to ensure that was included in any considered proclamation or resolution that we would examine. And additionally, while we spoke to Safe Carbon County and their membership, who had concerns with the use of biosolids, we did speak to a couple representatives of what is said to have been 12 different farms in Carbon County that apply biosolids. So sewage, treated sewage onto their fields. We didn't speak to the company that actually does the application, Sinagro, nor did we speak to a sewage treatment plant operator to give us a better understanding of the process. What is being applied, and then with Sinagro, how is it being applied, and to get all perspectives of the issue, and not simply to take one side perspective without giving due consideration to other stakeholders on the issue. So I've now attempted to reach out to Sinagro and ask them to present to the commissioners. I'll also follow up and ask them if they'd be willing to do a public uh, a presentation about the use of biosolids. And in addition, I'll be reaching out to a local borough to see if the Board of Commissioners can have an opportunity to better understand the sewage treatment process here in Clark County, as an example. Now, myself and a good buddy Scott, we used to hang out many Saturdays, if I recall, at times during the summer. It may have been with Mudabel, the sewage treatment plant operator here in Jim Thorpe back in the 70s. So again, technology, the requirements have changed considerably in those 43, 45 years since my last active visit to a sewage treatment plant. So I hope to set that up also. So again, just a review of what's going on here from the Board of Commissioners meetings of today. This is Carbon County Commissioner Lucas Savage. I want to thank you for taking the time to be an informed voter. I want to remind you, 28 September, please join me and my guest, Carbon County Controller candidate Sam Lux, as we discuss his background, his experience, the duties of responsibilities of the controller's office, and what he expects to bring to that position. Again, Carbon County Commissioner Chris Lukaszewicz, feel free to reach out to me at any time, except 5:30 to 7:30 every evening, right? You can give me a call, 570-503-6780, 570-503-6780. Have a great day.